Meghan Markle is officially in panic mode, and her PR continues to get more extreme and ridiculous. You almost feel like the crazy is well and truly setting in for her PR team as they work overtime to absurd degrees to try to spin that Meghan Markle's show With Love Meghan, that their agreement with Netflix and everything has some sort of future ahead of it. But when you look at some of the numbers, especially a really interesting report from Deadline regarding a channel that's not Meghan Markle's, but you could very easily say Meghan fits within the same genre, is failing and failing pretty hard because guess what? Meghan Markle, with her premise, has infinite competitors. And as Netflix has figured out within another space, I just don't think there's a future for the type of content Meghan Markle is selling. So we are going to get into this, her silence on Instagram, what this whole as ever debacle means, and why, again, I truly believe Netflix is not invested in Meghan Markle like she would like you to believe. So we are going to dissect all the crazy PR news today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary, so please hit that subscribe button. I would absolutely love to have you back. And we have some very exciting news in Royal Land, which is that Peter Phillips, the son of Princess Anne, is officially engaged to Harriet Sperling. Here is the happy couple right there. I believe she has been married before, and definitely he has. He was previously married to Autumn Phillips, and the couple got married recently. And through an official statement, it says Mr. Peter Phillips, the son of Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal, and Captain Mark Phillips, and Ms. Harriet Sperling, daughter of the late Rupert Sanders and Mrs. Mary Sanders of Gloucestershire, have today confirmed their official engagement. Both families were informed jointly of the announcement and were delighted with the wonderful news of their engagement. Their Majesties the King and Queen, the Prince and Princess of Wales have been informed of the announcement. No date has officially been set for the wedding. Now, I found actually really interesting that they included that not only the King and Queen, but Catherine and William were also made aware of this announcement, which again shows Catherine and William's growing profile within the family with their transition as the Prince and Princess of Wales. So I kind of sort of love seeing that. Obviously, Peter Phillips and his kids are actually pretty close to Catherine and William and their kids. So this definitely 100% makes sense. And I do have to say as well, guys, I will link down below Harriet's outfit here because it's a me and M look. And both of the pieces are actually not too terribly priced. I mean, they're over $100. But if you are interested, I will link them down below because there's only a couple of options available, but they're still actually on the site if you're interested, because I think this is a sweet, very casual look. I like her style so far. And so I'm excited to see her really enter into the royal fold. And I wondered if an engagement was in the offing because, of course, Harriet was in the carriage procession at Ascot. And I don't believe that honor was extended to Peter's previous girlfriend. Obviously, Autumn Kelly attended quite a bit. And I do still miss Autumn Kelly and seeing her around more, but I hope she's doing well. And I'm sure that she is. Peter has two daughters with Autumn. So that is Savannah and Ilsa. So they are probably going to be part of this. I'm interested to see what level of wedding we'll have. I'm quite curious. This could and probably maybe should be somewhat small, but it's interesting too that they gave this exclusive to Hello because last time Peter got married, he made an agreement with Hello Magazine for the exclusive rights to the pictures of his wedding and did not tell the royal family. So I'm sure there's some trepidation with like, what is Peter going to do this time? He got his hand slapped pretty good for that. So hopefully none of that as well. And we do also have some fun bits over from the Danish royals. So the Danish royals did come out to see the changing of the guards at Gråsten Castle, where their summer residence is. What we have here, this is actually King Frederick's cousin. He is a prince of a German principality. There's his wife back behind there with their daughter. So there was a huge, and I need to do a deep dive on this, a huge issue with his inheritance that took years to resolve. So lots of things happened there. Really, really crazy situation. And so him and his wife have been together for like 20 plus years, but just had a couple of children. They were born by surrogacy. So that's sort of interesting. Great to see the royals out and about, of course, there as well. And I'm like, oh, There's so many, like, various, like, yearly things that the royals tend to do that I'm like, "I wanna be there to take the picture of it at some point," because in part, I had a hard time finding pictures, but it looks like a fun event, so bravo to the Danish royals. We also have Princess Alexia being named on the Tatler's best dressed list in London, which was a bit of surprise because some of the other people, I think people are like, "Who are they and why are they the best dressed?" But I think Princess Alexia, even though we don't see her a lot, does sort of deserve it. We also have Ingrid Alexandra, Princess Ingrid Alexandra, future Queen of Norway, setting up shop there in Sydney as she pursues her degree. She's going to university there in Australia. And she was seen bringing in some Prosecco to the dormitory. So looks like they're about to have a little bit of fun over there down under. We also have an announcement from Prince William's Homewards Initiative, which will build a affordable housing complex in the south of London in property owned by the Duchy of Cornwall. It will provide 16 flats and it is aimed at those under 25. So that's very cool. William, of course, is aiming through Homewards to eliminate homelessness. So we will see how that goes. Obviously, that's one of those things where it's probably will never fully be eradicated, but I think it's fantastic that William is trying his best to offer and utilize the resources of the Duchy of Cornwall to help as many young people as possible. We also had the Monaco Yacht Club winning the Admiral's Cup recently. Princess Madeline has shared a picture of her children wishing everybody a happy summer. And the Spanish royals recently attended a film festival. So lots going on. Like it usually gets pretty quiet this time of year. Generally, overall, August is pretty much a downtime, but we do have a decent amount of little bits of royal news going on. But this July has been sort of doom and gloom for Meghan Markle. I don't even say Prince Harry because he seems totally checked out of most of this, to be quite honest. It's Meghan. I think she is truly, absolutely in panic and crisis mode over the failure of this Netflix deal. Now, it might be true, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong to believe that she is trying to hash out something with Netflix behind the scenes. But her PR, especially in the Daily Mail, I feel like is getting to such absurd degrees. Reality doesn't seem to exist in the land of Meghan anymore. In order to get through this, she has to live in the land of delusion and has her PR team almost to the extent look idiotic for saying some of the things that they are, things that make no sense, things that sort of ignore the realities on the ground when it comes to business, streaming, the entertainment industry overall, how to even run a business. Like nothing is making sense. And I think you get that from somebody who's absolutely has like just in fear that the money stream is going to end. And she's definitely looking at a much lower deal. And of course, that was always going to be the case. Even if they got renewed sort of in a similar deal, it was always going to be for less money. Everybody in Hollywood is sort of pulling down the cost of things. The industry overall is struggling. I was reading and we will get into this, but this one particular channel, there's a whole article and deadline breaking down how they're losing money and how the talent got so ridiculously overpriced that they're now having to rein everything back in. Everybody is belt tightening. I cannot emphasize that enough. Everyone is. And yes, Ted Sandros may have a bit of a fascination for Meghan Markle, whatever that happens to be. But I think what Meghan is finding out is that Ted has to answer to his board. And there is just not enough reason in the slightest to ever cover Harry and Meghan and give them the sort of deal that they got in the beginning. Every project you could say for Harry and Meghan cost Netflix $20 million, and none of them were worth that, except for maybe Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan, maybe, just maybe you can justify that amount. But Live to Lead, no, it bombed. Heart Invictus bombed. Polo bombed. And I would say With Love, Meghan also bombed. They all bombed. And so there's just no reason to justify any of this. But again, we are getting diluted levels of reasoning here. And I think it's just good to go over them just because, number one, we can all laugh together. But number two, it just really, I think, shows you how Meghan just can't seem to deal with reality and has her team, to their detriment and to her own detriment, push an absolutely absurd narrative. So let's take a look at this one real quick. We've looked at this before, but it's worth repeating because we're going to go to the next one, which is just as good. It says if you're in the top third of Netflix, you're getting another deal. There's been plenty of very successful things on Netflix that are doing better than Megan's is that did not get a second deal. Another source says what happens at the end of the contract is that people renegotiate. But when you do this kind of commercial negotiation, both sides are not allowed to talk about it. And renegotiation, I mean, that's of course true, but the reality remains they might be renegotiating, but it's because she now is in a spot of detriment. She did not fulfill, you could say, the expectations of Netflix. So she's looking at, they're coming at her with a much, much lower amount. And she's looking at that going, no, 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 I want this. And they're like, no. And again, all of Hollywood is doing this. This is not a specific thing on Harry and Meghan in some ways, but this is a broad strategy by the entertainment industry. And everybody is pulling back from talent because we've seen so much, and we'll go into a bigger issue that things aren't going well. So this is just sort of dumb. Netflix is a listed company, so they can't say anything or confirm officially yet that a new deal is happening, but that deal is not dead. I would feel like Netflix, again, timing is everything. Netflix leaked, I think, in my personal opinion. Netflix told the world Meghan wasn't getting a new deal after the Netflix numbers came out because they're looking at them going, those numbers are out. We can't justify a new deal. And they're using that to justify this. And I'm sure they're using it behind the scenes too. Your numbers are bad. And she's probably like, no, 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 they're not. They're not. They're not. They're like, yeah, they are. And it says, as well, Netflix are an equity partner and as ever. So they are unlikely to drop Meghan. It serves then to promote her and her lifestyle brand via the With Love Meghan show. It would be like punching yourself in the face not to sign a new deal. What actually is punching yourself in the face is creating a show and not ever mentioning your brand like Meghan Markle did. That's that's stupid. That's more stupid than what Meghan is trying to shill here, which makes zero sense. They're not really promoting her lifestyle thing. They're letting her do it, which is why it's failing. And then let's get back to the bottom. Again, we've gone over this in a different video, but it goes on to say people point to Polo was a flop, but it's worth remembering that Harry and Meghan's biggest documentary on Netflix ever was in 2022, 3 years ago. So you should re-sign them to a $100 million deal based on one success 3 years ago. That makes sense. It doesn't. That alone could have afforded them 50 flops. It doesn't. That's not how this works. That is not how the industry works at all. You're afforded 1 or 2 flops, and then you're pariahed out of the industry. And it still would have been worth it for Netflix. Not really. With Love Meghan has been worth it too. It's done really well, especially in America, which is the only place that matters. That's insanity. Netflix is a global company. They want to reach out and hit everyone. America is not the only place that matters. To Netflix or really any company, yes, the United States is a huge, massive market. You can't ignore it. But also, there is a whole big, gigantic world out there. And you would be remiss and frankly stupid for thinking to yourself, oh, America's the only one that matters. Nobody else does. Nobody else does. What this screams to me is cope. Meghan and her team are coping. Well, I'm thinking in particular Meghan. She's coping and trying to make absurd assertions to justify her failure. You don't say this if you know you have a success. You say this when you know things have failed and you're trying desperately to justify yourself, going, well, it did well in the States, don't you know? But it should have done well everywhere. If it didn't do well everywhere, then, I mean, let's just say a flop is a flop. And if they can only, let's say, generate interest in one single market, well, I mean, 2/3 of Netflix subscribers don't live in the United States. Again, that's stupid. That just ranges of stupidity. But Harry and Meghan, I say Harry and Meghan, but I should just say Meghan because this screams to me all Meghan. So this is another Daily Mail piece saying how Meghan's a new gold mine. She's going to make more money than ever, guys. Same people who probably said she was going to have a $1 billion entertainment empire is now telling us that she has millions of dollars more she's going to make, guys, if not into the billions. And then, of course, this talks about the deal and just says, Ted Sanders remains a huge fan. Again, this is cope. This is absolutely, well, Ted is a fan. So Ted's one singular judgment can impact all of us. So all of us around the world should be subjected to Meghan Markle because Ted Sandros is a fan. The one single person in the world who's a fan is Ted Sandros. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. And his support is a powerful secret weapon. But it could also be his downfall and her downfall. He could be brought up to the board and go, "Hey, you're funding this craziness." And I know so many people talk about the royal family. Ignore that because that is not what matters here. Really, truly, it's the hard and fast numbers. The numbers do not justify a $100 million deal for the second time. It just doesn't. There's no way any of Harry and Meghan's numbers justify a deal at that level again. They got it one time and never again. And it says here, there will be a third series of Meghan's lifestyle show with Love Meghan if she wants one. And I hear she does. But is that a good idea? I don't think so. And again, we're going to get into why. I know I'm teasing it, but once I read this particular article, I'm like, oh, this spells doom for Meghan too. Because her competitors are endless. And Meghan's show is generic, it's boring, and it is totally devoid of character. It is artificial, and people feel that. And she has an infinite number of competitors, all conveniently located on your phone, that don't have those issues. And that's what people are gravitating to. It says multiple sources saying they're getting a first look deal with the streamer that will be in line with the $65 million deal Michelle and Barack have gotten. And it doesn't get bigger than that. Well, I believe that's 35 million less than what they got before, and they're not going to get 65 million. If they're lucky, they'll get maybe 20, 25, maybe 30. They cannot justify mega deals anymore. And first looks deals only means because Netflix would tell you probably in their heart of hearts that the deal with Barack and Michelle didn't work out too well either. They had middling success, but they only get that money if Netflix goes with the show. So if Netflix decides, we're going to pass on it, Harry and Meghan don't get anything. They can shop it around. I also hear that there are options on the table for other lifestyle shows from the Duchess tied to hosting gatherings at Thanksgiving or Christmas. Oh, the woman who has zero family, who does not talk to her father or her in-laws, is going to tell you how to host gatherings. Yeah, she's going to be real helpful. She's going to be real helpful in that endeavor. The idea is to announce those in September when the second series, already shot with Love Meghan, drops. Well, she might film those and maybe Netflix gives her a little bit of money from that, but these are stupid concepts. She wasn't even good the first time around. And she's definitely going to get pennies to the dollar of what she used to get, if she gets anything at all. In fact, one place source believes the Sussexes are going to make more money next year for Netflix and Meghan's Netflix-backed brand, as ever, than they did this year. Okay, guys. I mean, we're starting to get way into the crazy pants territory here. As ever, cannot be making much money. And it always has very limited supply runs. How can it be making that much money? Do you know what makes money? Having products in stock all the time makes you money. Having nothing in stock and having wildly differing product launches is not helpful. Like, Meghan could set up a seasonal launch strategy. There is no strategy here. This is just, oh my gosh, now we have different wine now. So we're going to give you different wine. And it's like, well, I purchased the first one. I did have a friend try it. She said it was awful. She compared it to all the others I purchased. As ever was the worst. And she actually drinks wine and I don't. But it was also like, you can get the exact same thing elsewhere for super cheap. There's nothing proprietary about anything she is doing at this point. The only thing floating her is the royal title, and that's it. But of course, it's bad news for Archewell because it only matters if Harry and Meghan are making money, not if they can pay their staff, apparently. Insiders suggest the team running the office costs around $3 million, although they won't comment. Some belt tightening on the production side looks inevitable. Yeah, because they don't produce anything. The fate of the projects in development, including a rom-com film based on the book Meet Me at the Lake, and the retelling of Charles Dickinson's Great Expectations, is not known. They're dead. They're dead. They'll go on ice forever. Yeah, duh. They can't even make good documentaries. How in the world are the two of them supposed to make fictional content? I have no idea. Probably neither does Netflix. So sources, though, close to the couple say we can expect more projects from both of them for Netflix. Okay. Despite poor ratings, Netflix just wants to throw more money at Harry. You know, Polo and Heart of Invictus totally and completely bombed. My actual review for Heart of Invictus got more views than Heart of Invictus. But, oh my gosh, guys, they're going to get more. They're going to get more. All of us naysayers over here on the internet, we're crazy. So, although Megan's show made debuted at only number 383, it's still the top 5% of Netflix output. Well, if you actually take away maybe all the Netflix originals, maybe you get something a little bit different. But at the same time, too, even Deadline said it performed poorly. And Deadline is an industry publication. Harry's Polo documentary flopped. So obviously, the documentary did the best. Megan's polarization is the little problem, not to mention the fact she's wildly untalented in pretty much everything she's attempting to do right now. That doesn't really help either. I'm told she's mulling the best ways to evolve her brand, which she wants to keep affordable. You don't have a brand, Megan. You don't have a company. You have a random selection of random products that boggles. I don't understand why any of it exists. I still don't understand what the point of your brand is. You have no messaging, you have no strategy. You just have wine on a beach and then wine in the grass. And I don't understand. And flower sprinkles. Flower sprinkles. And then we do have Lauren Sherman of the news site Puck trying to put in a little bit of reality to the situation, saying, sure, stuff sold out, but that's because they didn't make a lot of it. Yep. I've never understood why Markle, who legitimately moves product when she wears or endorses something, didn't team up with a licensing firm, foster sister style, or go ahead and raise capital from her inner Montecito circle to start a Goop style business, with the knowledge of where Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop brand succeeded and failed, of course. And perhaps she'll do something of the sort. I don't think so. But there are a few things holding her back. First, she's terribly polarizing. Nobody likes her, even more so than Gwyneth. A lot of people might buy a sweater Megan is wearing from J. Crew or Lalinge, but would be embarrassed to serve a bottle of her wine at a dinner party. Not to mention the fact it was crappy wine. It was crappy, cheap wine. And the other issue Sherman adds is that an ex-Sussex employee told her the one thing Meghan and Harry have consistently done is make the wrong decision. It's not for lack of trying, because as another source told me, they are horrible at making decisions. They ask everyone and then don't take their advice. Yeah, that's kind of what happened with the royal family too, isn't it? And that's a problem all the Netflix money in the world can't solve. No. No, it can't. But the level of crazy there is quite astounding, I feel like. How we're justifying ourselves, or Meghan is attempting to justify herself to absurd degrees. Absurd degrees. And it just rings to me of panic, of chaos, of delusion, of so many different things, and a true crisis going on. And Meghan's premise is dead. I saw this particular piece from Deadline. Well, I actually saw it somewhere else and referenced it was from Deadline. So Deadline decided to do a deep dive into why HGTV is starting to fail a bit. It used to be actually one of the top cable programs in the country, and now is flatlining. And it's saying here exclusive HGTV, which is a home and garden television channel, needs its own refresh. And this used to be huge. Like, people would put on HGTV all the time. And so the reason why it's failing in part is, of course, they say tariffs related to Donald Trump. But the true probably culprit here is DIY TikTokers. And I would also add Instagrammers, Facebookers, and YouTubers. There is infinite level of competition now. People who buy homes themselves. There's even a channel called, they bought a chateau in France and have redone it. There are a multitude of potential competitors in this space anymore. And they don't need big production crews to do it. They can capture things in real time and post them. And they don't have to deal with all of the complications that comes with working from a network. So in part, we'll just kind of go through this a little bit quickly, that the network has canceled at least 7 shows, and it gives you a list of all the shows. And It talks about how expensive home renovations are because the channel contributes part of that. So, Deadline understands that HGTV home renovations can cost up to $500,000 an episode. And when it comes to real estate shows, so going around and touring various homes and stuff like that, there's only 200, 300,000 per episode, which still seems very high. And it has a shorter turnaround than home renovations. So you're looking at a cost benefit analysis here. So it goes through the following ratings. So it started off, while it does remain a top 12 network, and I do see it on television when I'm at doctor's offices sometimes. The network is down almost half of its total audience in the last 8 years. In 2017, it averaged 1.5 million viewers, while last year this number was 773,000. Perhaps more importantly, it is heavily losing among young viewers. In the 18 to 49 demo, it was down 26% last year, averaging only 101,000 viewers in this age bracket. Says viewers have just left the building and they're not coming back. So it says younger audience are more connected to TikTokers, Instagram feeds, and Pinterest girlies to get inspiration rather than linear networks. And obviously, as well, the stars initially who really kind of blew up HGTV, Chip and Joanna Gaines, now have their own network they manage called Magnolia, which is doing really, really well and has chipped away, of course, at HGTV as well. And then another challenge, according to sources, is that HGTV has had to pay a lot of money to their top talent in deals, upwards of $100,000 per episode. So it says here they allowed their talent to run amok. They gave them some form of creative control, and that's harming their own shows. They were so afraid of talent, they never said no, and the shows aren't delivering anymore. They kowtowed to the talent, and now they're suffering the consequences. And so all the renegotiations right now at HGTV are reduction. And that's again across the board in Hollywood right now. Some have suggested they lean into the more of the origins of the channel and go back to some more gardening content. I don't know how well that'll do. So, why does that matter to Meghan? Because obviously she's not doing home renovation. But at the same time, I feel like she's doing something somewhat similar in the same vein, an overly pricey talent delivering mediocre content that takes a long time to bring it together. It's coming out, it's dull, it's uninspired, and you can find 1,200 women, mostly men as well, doing the exact same thing on a number of social media platforms. So Meghan's competitors are YouTubers, Instagrammers, TikTokers, variety of people, all of whom have a very low bar of entry. You just have to go on TikTok and search, let's say, making a low effort pasta. I'm sure you can find infinite examples of that. What about, how to be a great hostess? Let me show you a couple of tidbits here. And the number of competitors Meghan has is just huge and astronomical. And I can't help but think Netflix knows this because Netflix, it says in that article as well, actually went through at one point and did do some similar shows, but has gotten completely away from that field. And while it's been claimed that they want to get into the lifestyle show kind of format, it's sort of a dead format. And there are so many people on social media doing the exact same thing that it really makes whatever Netflix does superfluous. It makes what Meghan does superfluous because you can find the exact same thing she shared on Pinterest, TikTok, and Instagram. And all you need is your phone for that. You don't need a Netflix subscription. You don't need to meander through the long and boring, dull content of Meghan Markle. You just need this and say, "Oh, I want to create something cool like lavender scented towels." And you can find that exact same thing. Super duper easy. Now, what Meghan has failed to do, of course, is compete in that way. Because what Meghan should be doing, what she stupidly is not doing, is being on Instagram every other day sharing homemaking hacks. That's exactly what should be doing because that actually builds up tension to her show. Like, if you're watching that and you're watching little short things she's doing, not the carefully curated stuff that Netflix produced, but her in her kitchen talking to the camera, which she never ever seems to want to do. and talk to people about how she's making, let's say, leprechaun waffles, which she didn't do. And she showed 2 different things of waffles. So she made a waffle for herself and a waffle for her kids. So it's like, which it's dumb. What she should be doing every single day, showing how to use that rosé in unique and interesting ways, how to use the flour sprinkles, the jam, all these sorts of things. She needs to be on Instagram every single day because her competitors are on Instagram every single day. And guess what? If somebody's searching for something that Meghan Markle did and they find somebody else who does it, and that person constantly feeds their interest in content, they'll go back to that person constantly and they'll ignore Meghan. Because what Megan tells me by not producing more content is that she doesn't care in her content. She has no interest in what she's trying to show. Because if you had interest in it, you'd be doing it. I do royals in part because I love them. It's like my hobby to follow royalty. And so because of that, it created a channel. And I like fashion too. So I have royal fashion news. And so I have these interests. And even if, let's say, I didn't do the channel anymore, I'd still be following royals. But I don't think Meghan believes in her own premise. And because of that, nobody else does either. And what HGTV is like glaring a warning sign to Netflix and others who may think of going down the with love, it's a dying concept. The media landscape is changing. There's reasons why my channel and others have huge audiences. It's because the whole media landscape is changing. People are diversifying. They are pursuing and looking at different forms of ideas. They're no longer interested as much in the linear and mainstream. So, almost in that situation, linear and mainstream has to work almost even harder because now they're competing with people like me. And I'm not saying that to be braggadocious, it's just true. Linear media is competing with YouTube. I constantly look at my YouTube feed to see what new videos are up so I can watch them. And linear TV does not have that opportunity. It used to be that you only had television, so you would just leave something like HGTV on all day. Why do you care? Like my parents probably used to do that at some point. They would just leave HGTV on or Fox News or something, and they just leave it on all day. That's becoming less and less of what people are doing. They're seeking out a variety of different sources and a variety of different voices. And what Megan is failing to realize, I think, through this diluted propaganda is that her premise is already out of date. Now, I knew that from the beginning, but I think the HGTV gives us more evidence that her whole entire concept for a show is completely out of date. And if Netflix was truly as engaged in her brand as she's attempting to claim, why isn't part of Netflix house? Why isn't Netflix doing anything to promote her brand? They're not. Megan is tying them to her brand. Megan is the one saying, Netflix loves this. Netflix is so interested, but it's not making any money. It cannot be making much money at this point because her stock is so small. And what that means too is that if you're producing less, that means that your profits are lower too. Because if you're producing less, that means the overhead is higher. So if you mass market and make 100,000, you can make more than if you just make 10,000. Now, I don't know what Megan's numbers are. She could be making as low as 1,000, let's say, bottles of wine. Like that's not going to make you much money. Even if you're selling it at $30 a pop and it's just cheap wine. And some people may never rebuy Meghan Markle's wine again. And she's forcing them to buy more. You got questions of, is the 2023 bad? Like so many things going on. And Meghan is not doing herself any favors here, guys. She should be doing herself so many favors. She should be on Instagram more, building interest. Instead, she's disappeared and gone silent again, not doing anything. Why? I don't know. Like she could be on vacation, sure, but that's why you film content ahead of time. And for me, I'm not able to do that. I'm a one-woman show. So I'm not able to sort of front load content as well as some other people can. Hopefully I'll get there at some point so that if I do want to go on vacation, I don't have to worry about bringing my stuff or something like that. But Meghan has that luxury. She can hire a bunch of people and make content for like an entire day, plan it, do a bunch, and then come back. But she's not doing it. And this is only going to lead to failure. And so that's why I feel like because the Netflix arm is going away, and that might mean, oh no, she actually has to work, the panic is setting in. The crazy is starting to inch out more and more because she desperately wants to prove that her format is a winning format. It's not. In fact, the only thing that probably floated her show at all was her title, and that's it. That's it. That's the only reason the show did anything. And even the titles don't necessarily mean the show is elevated. Got Polo, Heart of Invictus to share with that as well. But the Megan side, I think it was a controversy with Mindy Kaling. If there's nothing like that, this show, people have already watched it. And if they were sort of interested in what she was sharing, well, maybe they're just on pins and needles waiting, or maybe they've found 12 other people on social media who are already doing it better and giving them infinitely more content than Megan is. And because of that, I think this next season will do worse than the previous one. And Netflix does not have an interest in this. They've already figured out that this whole lifestyle genre, not really a genre that you can engage in. In fact, there's other things that make them a lot more money with a lot less effort than dealing with Meghan Markle. So, guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of my theories. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall speak to you again very, very soon. Bye.